Hey, folks, welcome back to the Pulse. My name's Matt. This is Crypto Heartbeat. It is 10 a.m. Central Texas time. And can you feel it? Can you feel it, folks? That is the feeling of optimism. Wow, it is morning in America. It's more like it's morning in the world. And for those of you who don't know the reference, that was what was said about Reagan coming in 1980. It's morning in America so much. And this is so reminiscent of that era of a new era of optimism. There's a spring in your step. It's amazing what's happening. And I think it's really important for those folks who may be bummed about the turnout of the election. We're going to be talking about really a golden age that has really very little to do with Trump, although Trump has all kinds of golden things in his bathroom and is kind of representative of the golden hair and all of that. But this is going to be a golden age. And I'm really happy with this thumbnail. Just a new golden age. Richard Hart in his golden suit. What is this golden age? Is there a new golden age coming? I think there is. And I'm going to make a case for that today. And I'm super excited. Folks, something changed. I was watching the election returns. And of course, the last time I went to bed in the last election, I woke up to obviously the outcome that was strange. And I was concerned because I was getting tired. It's about midnight in the central time zone. And I'm like, if I go to bed, does this mean this thing is over? And of course, I wake up to a Kamala Harris victory. And I went and I laid down, I got into bed and I couldn't really fall asleep very well. My mind was racing, of course, all this stimulus. And I literally was about to fall asleep. And when you like twitch right before you fall asleep, I literally had like the biggest like lightning bolt in my head. I thought, oh, am I having a stroke or something? And it was like this moment. Of course, the next day I woke up and I, saw the news and everything. And there was like a shift. And I don't know if it's in the spiritual realm or whatever, but it was like, okay, we're going to demarcate this thing. And for me, that was a big moment. And of course, the implications of the change. I'm going to make a case to you that this is way, way, way more than Trump. And actually, the whole current system of creation has been designed for this moment. I'm going to make that case to you. And I think you're going to be really encouraged, regardless of how you feel about the outcome of some sort of election. But this is reverberating across the world as a new era, a golden age, a new age. And boy, I'll tell you what, there's something about optimism. You probably know this, but you've heard of placebo. The placebo effect is effective 40% of the time. But placebo effect only works if the person taking it believes that it actually has medication or effectiveness. And so this idea of belief, this idea of your mind understanding and thinking something makes a difference. Have you ever been at a sporting event, and during that sporting event, like the momentum shifts, right? Something happens and the crowd gets into it and all this stuff happens. And of course, then the players have, more engaged and more excited. And when that momentum shifts. Or if you're in a boat and you've been sitting for the last 4 years or more in the doldrums, right? Like you're in a sailboat and you can't move anywhere. Like literally, like no wind whatsoever. What has happened is this is a shift, and this is a monumental shift. And I'm going to make a case that it is actually somewhat predictable, but it coincides with so many things. And of course, if you're here in the Pulse with Crypto Heartbeat, we're going to be talking about the money. We're going to be talking about crypto and the implications of all of this result of the election and what it means. And many of you have been paying attention to that. But to me, I've said for a long time, if you've been watching, that this all begins yesterday, the day after the election. And to have something that was so clear of a win, I think probably the quintessential video of that was on CNN when Jake Tapper's asking, all right, well, let's look where Kamala has outperformed Joe Biden from the last election. And he pulls up the map. And there's not a single county in the entire United States that is blue. You know what? This is not just convincing, right? It's not just a Trump convincing someone. This is a shift. And it's a shift not only in demographics, but it's also a shift in something more significant. And that is a shift in generations. And that's what we're going to be talking about first. But there's so many things to talk about today. Let's get back into the chat and say hello to you. I'm so glad that you're here. I hope this energy that I'm going to provide and encourage you with is something that lifts your spirits. But I know you feel it, Mr. Anderson. I know you feel it when you go to church and pay your taxes, right? There's been a shift in this matrix, if you will. And I can't help but think, seeing the videos of people just breaking out in hymns. I don't know if you saw this, but people broke out in "How Great Thou Art" and all these just spontaneous acts of singing. And of course, if you've been under oppression, and I'm going to make a case that you've been under oppression, and that we have all been under oppression, it's literal and it's spiritual as well, is that there is something that's been lifted. And what that lifting is giving you permission. If you're somebody out there that's been planning something and you've been holding off, so many people have been waiting for this election, all this stuff, and you feel like, man, a bear market, it's been going for so long. What do I do? What do I do? Now is your time. Now is the time to act. Now is the time to build. The wind is picking up. The prevailing wind is shifted. We are in a new golden age. So I'm going to prove it to you. But first, let's say hello to Sam Kemp. He's number one. This should be a gold mine of information. Amen to that. Run, Boston Bear. What's up? Boom. Francis Paul's here. Hex on air. What's going on? Magnus, it's good to see you. Hex Rockstar. What's up? Casey Hex, welcome back. Exciting times ahead. Hello. Fallen Comrade. Let's go. Just got back from from New York City. Richard Hart SEC hearing. Amazing, amazing. Shout out to Axis Live. Shout out to Dan Spencer and Danny the Singer and Hex Monkey and all the folks that were out there that were just awesome. And I'm going to tell you, looking at the transcript and seeing all this stuff, it's one thing to have really good attorneys, and it's another thing to have Trump. What did he say? Gary Gensler gets fired on day one. Folks, this is a whole new era. And it's not just Richard Hart and not having the SEC stuff, but it's all of the other things that come with that. We're going to talk about that with Bitcoin, with the strategic reserve, all of these things. But we're going to try to do it in a sensible manner. 80 people here on 30 on 3 different platforms. Welcome to the Pulse. My name is Matt. We talk about all kinds of things, but most importantly, we're talking about an alternative financial system. That's what we talk about here. And we believe that that is built on a truly decentralized framework, which is the Pulse chain. And that Pulse chain is a vertically aligned ecosystem. And it has all the right tools and all the right people in order to create an alternative financial system where there are no counterparties. There are no middlemen. Let's go. I think I'll have some steak with my breakfast. Amen. Why would you steak? Why would you? Because you're optimistic about the future. Let's go. Big relief, right? A weight has been lifted. Magnus, what's up? Alex, Clooney, Matt. We can feel it all over the place. There's people, I was seeing videos from people in the UK that were just like, and guess what this does? So let's talk about this first thing. And this first thing is permission. What this new era, this golden age provides for you is permission. You have permission. You don't need permission, but you have it. Okay. You don't need it. You can go your own way. You can blaze your own trail, but you now have permission. What does this mean? Well, when you kick the bums out like this happened and you say no, and you stand up and you say no, you have been lying to us about what our identity is, who we are, right? This is the attack. And this is an attack that's beyond just the political. It's spiritual in nature. It's convincing you that you are someone that you are not. And of course, we see this in identity politics, but we also see this in the very nature of the identity of the person. Because from my perspective, you were created by a creator for a purpose, and you were made a certain way. You have certain experiences, giftedness, talents, all of these things that work together with other people in community to accomplish amazing things. And it's good things, not to destroy, but to create. And so that's a big piece of this. But what does it give permission to? It gives permission to the people in Canada to kick that bum out, and the folks in the UK to kick that bum out. We've seen, obviously, Malay in Argentina did this ahead of time. But what we're going to see here is folks like Viktor Orban and people in eastern part of Europe that basically said no to this stuff previously. We're going to see that. It's going to be a wave of permission of people who literally are going to stand up and say no. And that's why leadership matters so much. Leadership matters so much. Hans, what's it? I can feel it. People across the world, thanks for sharing that and saying that. I agree with you. Come get it. Okay. I mean, here we go. Good vibes are coming your way. What's going on, Crypto Bear? Good to see you again. Thanks for coming back. I'm so going to get that suit next year. Yeah. Wouldn't that be awesome? Look at that suit. The Richard Hart golden suit. Doesn't he look good? I use this AI platform. Shout out to Hexo for introducing it to me. But to get all of this cool AI art, and then to literally be able to put Richard Hart in any possible situation. But you know what? Richard Hart is like a Trump-like character, right? He's somebody that's standing up. And, aren't you glad that you have leadership like this who was willing to stand up and to build systems and defend you and to keep you from getting wrecked and to teach you about DeFi and to create amazing products like Hex and forking the Ethereum blockchain to Pulse chain and creating buy and burns with PulseX, folks? These are the building blocks of an alternative financial system that literally will stand when the rest of the damn thing fails. Let's go. Let's go. Let's go. Magnus. Yeah, hit that like button. Appreciate that. We are growing. This channel is growing significantly. During the SEC thing, when the oral arguments were happening, we went live with folks that were there, and Axie's Alive was right there with Danny the Singer, and he just brought it. We had 1,600 people on the first stream, and then the one after that was 2 hours, 3 hours later was 2,100 people live. Folks, now you add on all of this stuff, you add on the election, you add on this shift, and folks, this is the beginning of a new golden age. So what if you knew things ahead of time? Do you think there's opportunity in seeing things ahead of time? You are prepared. The question is, are your bags packed for this lunar mission? Um, D1 and only Mandingo. Let's go. Timothy Harris is back. What's going on, man? Finn Bear. Hey, boys, all on is here. Oh, we need more energy. Ryan Hungate. Talk about a guy he's strong like bull. Why is he strong like bull? That guy can lift more than anyone. He's the strongest man I know. Ryan, thanks for being here. Magnus, what's going on? South Texas Crypto. What's up, Crypto Heartbeat? The lining up of things is fun to be a part of. All my friends here. You know what? We need this, And in a way, the contrast of how bad it was for 3 years and to see how good it can be. But it takes us all. See, this momentum is something that is contagious. It's contagious. The excitement, the opportunity, and what we need is what really got me into this whole ecosystem is people who are caring for one another, high-fiving each other at Hex events. I mean, besides the chart, folks, people that are off the chart, good people who've seen hard times, wanting to make a better life for themselves, but in that process, creating an alternative financial system. Let's go. Magnus, what's up? Ruskino. Oh, Opabamian, what's up, man? What a blessing to catch you, man. I'm so glad that you're here. I sold all my crypto for my home gyms. Well, at least you got something to show for it, right? Hey, this is the opportunity of a lifetime. And it was before, but now more than ever. With SEC going to be literally led by a person who's pro crypto. They're talking about a strategic Bitcoin reserve. I think what would be absolutely incredible is if they made Bitcoin or they made crypto or something we can swap for. It really doesn't even matter what it is, legal tender, right? There would be some amazing things that they can unleash. I mean, they're talking about like everything is on the table, like eliminating the income tax. I mean, there are a lot of things that are on the table, whether I agree with those or not. The fact is that we're not dogmatic in nature. And I think that's a really important point that you understand is that ideologues, people that are ideological, right? Far left, far right, people who are stuck in a ideology, you can't speak to them, right? You cannot convince them otherwise, right? The earth is flat, right? Whatever the ideology, whatever the dogma is, no matter what says, in the face of evidence, there's no changing that opinion. And that's the thing that I think is really interesting. Why do you feel and why do you see people like Elon Musk and Joe Rogan? Do you know why people are so attracted to Joe Rogan? Because he's not an ideologue. He is a guy who's curious. And one of the things that people that lack, that are in the ideological like extremes, is they lack curiosity and they lack empathy. They only see things through a lens that they see it through, and there's no changing their mind. But when you see a person like Elon Musk, or you see mostly Joe Rogan, and it's this era of people, and it represents a new generation of leadership, which I believe is Gen X. That's where I fall into. And it's this group of people who's kind of calling BS on this system, is that something has changed, an era has changed, new leadership's coming in. But the key to this is I'm open to listening to you and open to your perspective and willing to kind of examine these sacred cows. And I think that that's what is happening here. So this big shift you're going to see is that people that normally were cut out of the system and blocked out and did not have a seat at the table are going to have a seat at the table. And it's going to be a competition for ideas. Ideas. Like literally, people are going to be saying, hey, ideas. One thing, specifically in healthcare is related to ivermectin. It's its potential impact on cancer treatments and its availability and accessibility. That's just one little thing. There's no way those that have been, captured by the pharmaceutical industry. I mean, these guys are freaking out because literally they know that RFK is coming in there. But the fact of the matter is, how do you make people healthier again? You give them options and access to, look at things in a different way. There's so much information out there that was hidden, right? The censorship industrial complex, folks. Oh, I could go on and on, of course. Femi, I guess that's what it is. I won't pronounce the last one. Good morning, Crypto Heartbreak. Looking forward to your post-Trump victory. Yeah, absolutely. Crypto is the thing. Cryptomatic, what's going on? Hello, everyone. I'm in Texas too, learning a lot from Matt Long, Dave Weiss. Yeah. So, for example, this is a good example. I'm new to crypto and enjoying and learning in the process. Absolutely. Duncan Bates, optimism bubbling out in the South Africa at grassroots level. It's so good to see you. A wild SJ appears. Talk about, by the way, I just have to give you an enormous compliment. You look so good, and I mean that in like the brotherly way. But just seeing you on stream and seeing you at the SEC, you look so happy, you look so healthy, you look so beautiful, and the energy that you're giving off is just fantastic. So I just want to encourage you and thank you for all that you've done through this, the tours and riding on the bus and doing all of the stuff that you've done. You can really tell about people's character of how they react in difficult times. And a wild SJ is a star. So thank you so much. Crypto Incognito, let's go. Taurus is here. Academaciate is here. M. Condor. Donald Trump tweeted about Richard Hart. Did he really? Oh, yeah, Junior. This is a while ago. We thank higher power for showing us the path of light and alternative financial system. Let's go. All right. The energy is palpable. Okay, so I'm going to share some things. I've prepared a couple things for you. The first thing I want you to hear is I want you to hear Michael Schellenberger. Michael Schellenberger is one of the guys that had two big breakthroughs. One was he was the guy that was under attack with Matt Taibbi. They were given the Twitter files, right? This was the exposure. And I would say if I had to kind of put, two key moments, Elon Musk is really buying Twitter is really the reason that we have this situation, right? The truth, people don't need to be protected from disinformation and misinformation. People just need to be able to discern what is true. There's all kinds of things that aren't true. You have to make that discernment, right? And how do you make that discernment? Well, we've got access to infinite intelligence. And so how do you do that? Is that just because you're smart? No. It's because you're thoughtful, you're curious, you're interested. And that's what is going to be lifted up here. Common sense. What is common sense, right? And what is this golden rule in this golden age? Do unto others as you'd have them do to you. Hey, be thoughtful and considerate of other people. That is the very essence of the Richard Hart ecosystem, because that's what Richard's practicing. He's concerned about you. He's already rich. He wants to help you. Well, what is this you getting rich thing? It's the unlocking of opportunity. It's the unlocking of resources. Let's go. That's what we all want. But what's crazy is Richard doesn't win unless we win. And that's his whole system is built that way. And so folks, this is going to get really good. But let's do this. Let's share this video by Michael Schellenberger. This is, I think, is about as well said as you could make it. And so let's watch together.
These results are nothing short of a massive political realignment that should put to bed once and for all the corrosive myth that Trump's coalition is driven by white supremacy or fascism. And so if anybody really wants to understand why so many of us, even if we have our criticisms of Trump, feel relief and vindication as victory, they need to consider that it has more to do with the repudiation of totalitarianism than with Trump as a person or even his policies. Wokeism, or whatever you want to call it, progressivism, identity politics, radical leftism, has been rampaging through society for roughly the last decade. Sometime between Occupy Wall Street in 2011 and the first Black Lives Matter protests in 2013, seemingly normal liberals and Democrats started to lose their minds. Everything became racist. Everything became suspicious. Nothing was more suspicious than not agreeing 100% with the official woke Democratic agenda. Trump's election put wokeism on steroids. Suddenly, a word that in the past only extreme radical leftists had used to describe a Republican president, fascist, was now being used by very serious people like the New York Times columnists, establishment Democrats, and the previously sober foreign policy establishment. From news and entertainment media to schools and universities, these institutions encouraged and participated in the mass condemnation and cancellation of heretics, which became known as the Great Awakening and was really a new witch hunt. Ordinary and otherwise decent people behaved cruelly. They accused people they had known for years or decades of bigotry or racism, or of wanting to genocide trans people, or wanting millions to die from COVID. Diverging from progressive orthodoxy in any way became enough for people to not only end friendships, but to insist that the transgressors be ostracized and excommunicated. Those who had made a great show of being courageously open-minded and tolerant became intolerant, incurious, and cowardly. We were asked to pretend that the people carrying the pitchforks and torches to go witch hunting were in fact well-intentioned and just cared a lot more than the rest of us. They didn't. Behind the totalitarianism were individuals who had given into base motives like hedonism, envy, dogmatism, self-righteousness, prejudice, snobbery, psychopathy. Reconciliation is the higher road than revenge. But such reconciliation cannot occur until we confront the lies and reveal the full truth of the totalitarianism that we all just went through. We must not let the abusers gaslight us into thinking that what occurred was anything other than abnormal.
Oh my goodness. I think that is probably one of the best breakdowns of what happened. I don't know if you had this experience, but around that time that he's talking about, there are friends of mine that have been friends for a long time who literally destroyed our relationship over this very thing, right? This judgment, and it really fell into this whole wokeism ideology. And folks, I'm telling you what, it is. It's corrosive, and it was corrosive. And I think at a certain point we thought, oh, well, this is normal, right? Until people stood up and led. And that's what I want to talk to you about. This is such a shift. It's almost like you don't realize that you've been oppressed until that weight is lifted. And there's so many things related to that. I know most people are thinking about, well, how do I get rich? And so we're going to talk about that specifically. What does that look like within this new system? And so I want to make a case to you that's different than it's been in the past. And I want to share with you an image that I think represents this extremely well. When people voted, well, let's go out of this. When people voted, they weren't voting just for Trump. I mean, when I was in San Antonio with the family on a little vacation, was when we got news that Donald Trump had been shot. And when I first heard that he was shot, I thought, he's dead. They killed him. Like literally, they will go. There's no distance too far. They killed him. Well, we realized that this miraculous thing happened and it just nicked his ear. But what happened right after that? And of course, I did streams on that, and I saw that image of him literally on the ground with the blood coming down his face. And I imagine, what happens in that moment, right? Because there's a lot of rhetoric, but then there's this time when you're like, are you going to die, right? Because that's the thing we all have in common, regardless of political beliefs. And I literally was like, okay, Trump's going to win in a landslide. That is the decision-making point right there. But who came out of the woodwork right after that? That was Elon Musk. The first thing he did right after he saw Trump stand up and say, fight, fight, fight. It's a definition of character, and you understand something. And the big question is this, it even says in the Bible, it's like, he who is without sin cast the first stone. What does that mean? It's like everyone has things that they probably wouldn't want to have on display, poor decisions that they've made. And of course, as you're a public figure like Trump, everybody wants you to remember those things and wants to convince you that he's someone else. But you can't manufacture that kind of courage under fire. And Elon Musk saw that and he said, all right, I'm in. And that was kind of the moment that shifted. But do you know what Elon Musk did besides like 6 companies that are changing the world? He really invested in the strategic effort in Pennsylvania. And there's a guy, I forget his name, who literally, they looked at the Amish who had never registered to vote before. And they got 180,000 Amish people to register to vote. And there were issues for them in farming as it relates to regulation. And I believe the reason that Pennsylvania went for Trump, and of course, all the swing states have gone for Trump, was ultimately because of those efforts, that strategic effort that was made there. But here's the interesting thing. Why is this such a shift into a golden age? It's not just because of Trump, but it's amazing to think that the last election kind of had to happen. We had to have this pause in this issue for things to get so far out of control that sensible people that are curious and open to ideas and open to perspectives are going, what in the world is going on? And then, of course, the purchasing of X, which literally allowed people to speak freely, expose the truth. And of course, this is the thing that's happened since the history of like creation and mankind, is that there are those who will lie, right? And why do they lie? But if you think about it, the core concept is the truth is probable. Remember this. This is a principle in life. The truth doesn't just like when you ask questions of the truth, it becomes more true, right? The truth is a thing. And so if something is true, you can continue to ask it questions and it continues to be true. But when things are false, they reject investigation, rejects questions, it rejects those things. And so what does it want to do? It wants to shut you up. It wants to control you. It wants to censor you. That's the beauty of this American idea, but it's rooted in the very, very core of the truth, the actual universal, substantial person of the truth. And so when I look at this image, this is that team unity promotion. What happened here and what is this representative of? It's a team of people, and it's an unlikely team of people. Tulsi Gabbard, she was a Democrat from Hawaii. J.D. Vance, who is a star, he's 40 years old. Grew up in Appalachia, represents this blue collar, group, but he was anti-Trump. RFK is the guy that got PCBs out of the Hudson River. He obviously was hated by the left for all of his what people thought was kooky thinking. But to think that he's going to run Health and Human Services now versus the trans person that wears a mask or something, of course, Elon Musk, and then I think a rising star of Vivek Ramaswamy. These people represent like intelligence. What's happened over this last decade is literally the deterioration of potential candidates. And frankly, I think the weakest one in all this stuff is probably Trump himself. But what does he do? He's willing to listen. He's a business guy. Look at the Abraham Accords. So there's a whole story that's behind that. You go, this is like, let's use practical incentives to be able to get people to work together. This is a big part of why. It's not about people, but at the end of the day, change happens by the decisions of people, and it requires leadership. But now that this has given permission to leaders across the world to kick the bums out and to actually approach things in a common sense way. Well, guess what? That's the Gen X generation. So let's talk about generations for a second. There's a book that was written by Strauss and Howe in the 90s, and it's called Generations. And there was a follow-up book called The Fourth Turning. And basically what it does, it breaks down American society by these 80-year blocks. And there's some great videos on the fourth turning out there. But it broke these down into eras. And if you can go all the way back to 1776 into these 80-year blocks. And there's demarcations of these. And what has been described is that we're in the crisis era. It's 4 20-year blocks and an 80-year block. So what's really fascinating about this is who Trump is. He's 78 years old. Guess when the atomic bomb was dropped? August 6, 1945. Do you know how long ago? So on January 20th, when Trump is inaugurated into the White House as a 47th president, guess how many years there's been since the bomb was dropped? And that's one of the key demarcation times in this whole era, 80 years ago, 79.5 years. So on one hand, you could say, well, it's just people in leadership. And the other thing is, no, this is actually a cycle that continues. People like Martin Armstrong have seen this across the whole analysis of money throughout the existence of money. There's a cyclical nature to this. We see this in the crypto world. We see this everywhere. But what we're seeing right now is actually meant to happen. And I would say that this is very, very predictable. We're at the end of this cycle. And so what's happening is we went through this crisis era and it got to a fever pitch. And people literally said no. And now we have this kind of reconstruction era. Okay, this is literally where everything was destroyed. You were told that you had to have 50 pronouns, right? The attack is on your identity of who you are. And it makes people question, well, yeah, maybe I am a racist. Maybe I am someone that doesn't care about people. Maybe I am a woman or whatever it may be, right? Attacking the very nature of your identity to disable you and take you out of the game. No, you can't be curious. You can't ask that question. You can't use those words. You can't say these things. Well, that's control, right? And there are spiritual control and there's also like a physical control. What has happened is this is literally a lifting off of the ability for you to speak, for you to be able to build, for you to be able to create. And so what's going to happen now is that we're going to see across the board a re-examining of all institutions, because this era that I would say has been led at this end by the baby boomers, it started August 6th of 1945 when the bomb dropped. And what did we have? My dad was born in 1948. There was a lot of kids born after that because all these people that were in the war grew up in the Great Depression. And they went home after the war and they're like, my life has been really hard. I grew up in the Depression and then I had to go off to war and all these people died and it's been crazy and it's over. So what did they do? They moved to the suburbs and they got it on and they had a ton of kids. And this baby boomer generation was created. But what's interesting is if you look at how kids were treated in that era, there's a statement that I had a class in college, and the statement was kids are to be seen and not heard. If you're old like Crypto Heartbeat or older, you know that statement. Kids are to be seen and not heard. You know, dad's had it so hard, right? Grew up in the Depression, went to World War II, and he's back. And like, I need a break. And what did that create? Well, it created the 1960s generation of hippies. It created all of this counterculture stuff. And of course, what did you have? Obviously, the civil rights movement. You had all these things, but the 1960s brought in literally a breaking of all of these rules. And what did it create? Leaders like Bill Clinton. I mean, Donald Trump's a boomer. But what is this? This is a hangover. And this hangover ended on Tuesday night. That's what it is. This is an 80-year cycle from 1945 up until now. 70, we're at the very, very tail end of this. But we're also in between a block of this crisis era where there has to be a rebuilding for this next Renaissance era. So we're not out of it until like 2032. So when we look at what is the next basically decade going to look like, well, this is a reconstruction time. This is an opportunity where we're going to really look at things like our cultures. You know, the people in England would say literally our identity as a country and as a culture is literally being completely diluted. And it's possible that this identity is going to go away. And so this is a cycle. And if you think about it, what is this message that's resonated so much with people across the country? Well, let's not spend our money abroad. Let's take care of our people at home. Let's have peace in the world if we can affect it. Let's not be involved in foreign wars. Let's be practical about the solutions that we have and not be controlled by economic interests only. Let's be considerate of people who are struggling and poor and disabled and all of these things. Let's do what's right by people, but let's not create systems that enslave. Let's not create dependence. Let's encourage people to be productive. How do we align things in order for that to happen? And so as you see this is that permission thing, right? You know, I think probably people in the oil and gas industry are like jumping up and down going, drill, baby, drill. Well, obviously there's a balance there, right? Obviously there's a stewardship over the earth, but there's also things that got so out of control that they didn't make sense. And so when you look at who voted and who supported, this isn't like, I like Donald Trump. No, they're tired of this thing, which is people constantly mislabeling them, labeling you as something to keep you down, like to literally keep you from speaking. And frankly, it's affected me. I'm sure it's affected you. And a lot of people are just like, no, okay, I just got to keep my head down because I got to get stuff done. But it got so bad for people, right? And obviously, inflation, I think, was the number one issue. This issue of like, hey, I need to have money to be able to survive. And this has gone out of control. And of course, we know a lot of that's related to the money system, printing more fiat currency, $8 to $15 trillion adding to the debt, all of this stuff. We have to do something about it, and who can and will. And so I think what we're going to see here is every single thing is going to be on the table now. What are the indications, though, for you and me in crypto? Oh, my goodness. If the SEC under this old regime was focused on using regulation to literally capture things, literally to use enforcement rather than regulation, and you think about it, there needs to be rules, but think about the things that Trump has said. Building a strategic Bitcoin reserve. Why is that valuable? Well, governments are buyers, not sellers. What do we think? What do we know about when people buy and don't sell? The price goes up. Well, that's going to affect all of the things in crypto, right? So this is a huge event, but that is also going to be followed by all of these other countries. They're going to follow in the footsteps of there's 63 countries that use the US dollar. Folks, this is an opportunity that is going to be tremendously impactful to the entire asset class of crypto. Many people have said, Raoul Pal's known for saying that the asset class of crypto, when it's completely mature and completely adopted by the world, is going to be 200 trillion, just like the bond market or the real estate market. Folks, we're a long way from that. What are we at? 3-4 trillion? $200 trillion market? Yep, that's where it's going. So even if you look at the macro, you're like, holy crap, this is huge. However, we've got all this debt. The question is, what is actually going to happen? There's some indications that the system could fail because of the nature of sovereign debt. And if you look at this world reserve currency status that the dollar has, it's in jeopardy because throughout history, people do not pay back their sovereign debt. The question, though, and I think this is a really interesting solution, is an idea of the Jubilee. If you look into the scriptures and you look into the history of the Jubilee, it never actually was done or executed by the Jews. They never did it. They were told to do it, but they never did it. But it's the idea of every 49 years that you would actually forgive all debts and reset the system. Why? Because people don't pay back their sovereign debt. Okay. Well, that's what this conversation is. They don't call it the Jubilee, but this is this conversation about doing away with the federal income tax. I mean, we're going to get an audit of the Fed. And this comes into my next point, which is ultimately about disclosure. All the things that were done in secret, all the things that were done in the dark are going to be exposed because we're in a new era, right? Snowden and all these types of people, right? WikiLeaks. Well, that's the stuff that's, kind of governmental. Well, RFK obviously made a deal with Donald Trump. He knows that the CIA killed his dad and his grandfather and his uncle. He knows it. Well, that's what they're protecting. And so that information is going to be disclosed. What happens when people realize that their government killed their president and his brother, the attorney general, and Martin Luther King and Malcolm X? What happens when we realize that this system that's been built, this military industrial complex that is literally outside of government, is literally, they think they're in control and that politicians are just puppets? That whole system, that deep state system, is going to have to be broken, and it is not going to go down without swinging. So that's, some issues, but disclosure in general, we're going to know things about what are these things flying in our skies that are, breaking the laws of physics. We're going to see that here in this era. So many things, the rise of AI. We're going to see so many things, and that is exciting. But it's about people making decisions in consideration for one another in a certain nature and character, right? Are you trying to oppress? Are you trying to win at all costs? Are you trying to stomp on somebody's neck so you win? That's what's unique about this pulse chain ecosystem. The Richard Hart leadership is actually one of consideration for other people, wanting to build a system that is good for all people. What's so inspirational about the blockchain and DeFi is the fact that there are no middlemen. There's no counterparty risk. It is peer-to-peer. And what's so exciting about that is you take back the power, but you have to take with it the responsibility. And that's why I think this is a real challenge, because a lot of people, if it goes mainstream, they want people to care for it, just like the current centralized system does. But folks, I'm telling you something right now. Not everybody wants to have their own keys and their own crypto, right? But if we cannot compromise to that system of convenience. We have to have a system that operates fully decentralized. We have to have one that operates fully and is vertically aligned, that is separate. Now, it'll be interoperable, but if this system fails, the centralized system fails, which it continues to do, what's going to be left standing? Well, we have to build that. And defending true DeFi is so important. And it's not just, because you get rich and get Lambo. It's because actually it's likely the only thing that'll be left standing when Babylon burns. And it's going to burn in an hour. So our economic troubles aren't over, but where we're investing our time, energy, and effort should be in something that does not have counterparty risk. That's the whole point. But it's right at our fingertips, and we have to do that in community by people building. And it starts with leadership of Richard Hart. One of the greatest things he ever did was copy the system state with the Ethereum blockchain and call it Pulse Chain. I know it's been difficult. Adoption's been difficult, but it's not going to be difficult because this is where the yield and where the gains are going to be. Folks, you are in the right place at the right time. People are going to wake up to this. And of course, this SEC case will be over. We'll move forward. We'll have regulation. We'll be welcomed. Crypto will be welcomed. There won't be all these restrictions on people in the US. You'll be able to, transact across the world for a period of time. And it is going to be a super cycle. I'm confident of it. And of course, you're seeing it right now. But folks, I believe that we're looking at about 10 to 12 months of an absolute screamer, banger of a parabolic move in crypto. Usually what happens before the top is about 5 months of literal straight up. And we're going to build up to that. And it's going to be bigger than ever because this stuff is becoming mainstream, right? Industries and, governments. And now this whole new attitude towards crypto, it's all going digital, folks. And you're sitting right in the right spot. And you should be congratulated for noticing and recognizing that. But you need to tell everybody you know. I was streaming all the way through the bear market, right? The top and all the way down. And it's hard to tell people, right? It's hard to tell people, hey, you're gonna have to hang on for another 2 years or 3 years. But here's the truth of the matter. These things are cyclical. They will be less volatile in the future, but they're very volatile now. And so you have to do your own research and you have to be careful. But the gains here, the access that you have to the potential gains are insane. They're absolutely insane. And it's an opportunity that could literally change your life. But what I see is what happens when regular people like you and me have resources? Well, what's your nature and character? How are you going to use this excess of abundant resource? Right? Are you going to use it to set up new gates and gatekeep other people? Are you going to oppress other people? No. I think the majority of people that have some common sense in this world and understand what they're looking at, if they have abundance, they're going to invest in good things. So we're decentralizing this potential impact. And that's what we're focusing on as a team. But at the end of the day, this golden age has to have an alternative financial system. It has to. We have the permission. We've got the wind at our back. We're not sitting idle in the doldrums, right? We have wind now, and the prevailing wind has shifted, and you feel it, and you know it. So have confidence. If you're going to start a YouTube channel, start a YouTube channel. Start talking about what you love about this ecosystem. Share with everyone that you possibly can. Like everything that comes across, whether you like it or not. If it's promoting this alternative financial system, I mean, we're going to see a day when Richard Hart is back streaming, folks. The leader will come back. There's going to be cheers and celebration. It's coming soon. After January 20th, when the inauguration happens, there's going to be executive order and firings galore. And so you're going to see Richard Hart come back. You know what a key indicator of that is? You know who's back? Rackham Rochelle is back. I'm excited. He's agreed to come on my channel for an interview, and I'm really excited about that. We're going to have him very soon here. So look out for that. But if you don't know Rackham's story, it is one of the most incredible redemption stories you've ever heard. And to know that he's back and willing to communicate with folks, that's real leadership. We need people like him. We need sensible people, but we also need people of means with relationships, smart people, right? We got plenty of, idiots that want to destroy things and literally cut people down and fight with people. We have plenty of those. We need more people who are going to step up, who are sensible and smart, because guess what? We're going to have all eyes on us. They're going to be like, all right, what's this Pulse Chain thing? I heard about this twerking guy, but he won this, SEC case, and he's really smart. And he's going to be humble, Richard, obviously, when he comes back. And that's good for everyone. And that leadership, people are going to be really drawn to that. But we have to amplify that message. And how are we amplifying it? By fighting with each other? No, by high-fiving. So I'm just going to say this right now. You need to be in Las Vegas on March 6th through 9th. If you've never gone to a Hexagon, Pulsagon meetup, you need to go. I'm going to go in Las Vegas, March 6th through 9th. Every possible person. Like, if you want to experience what this whole thing is about, you need to go. I have no incentive to share that with you outside of the fact that I want to see you there. Getting together is so incredible and so important because community is actually the fabric of purpose. It's how you connect purpose. I mean, I remember the first meetup I ever went to in Austin. I went there, I started a channel, and I walk in the room, and the Crypto Sparbuck guys are like, "Crypto Heartbeat, so good to see you." And I literally go in there, and a guy walks up to me, he says, "Hey, I got more money than I know what to do with, Crypto Heartbeat." I'm like, "What?" That was his intro. It wasn't like, "Hey, my name is." It was like, "I got more money than I know what to do with." And you know what he was saying? And I got to know him, and he's become a good friend. He's like, "Would you like to be my friend? I don't have connection to people. I have a ton of money, but my money doesn't provide me with purpose. I need to connect with others in community." And I'm going to tell you right now, money is just a tool. The question is, how are you using it? And I'm going to tell you, folks, the thing you're really looking for is peace in your heart. And that comes from being in community with other people and actually doing something of value, creating something of value, improving people's life, breathing life into them, considering them in addition to yourself. That's what this whole thing's about. You want to actually sleep well at night. It ain't about how big the number is on your, bank statement. It's nice. It feels good for a moment, but then, folks, it's fleeting. Relationships, family, purpose, creating, that's what really matters. And so as we look to this golden age, as we look to this bull run, like, get your mind right, folks. Get your heart right. Connect with people. Build things. Invest in good things. We have the opportunity literally to take this thing back. And I say this every time, and I'm going to say it again. Raoul Pal, a quote from him: "This is the first time in human history, folks, that you are experiencing something. You are an adult with money, and you are literally experiencing the first time in human history where political power and financial power have been separated. This is the first time in human history where political power and financial power have been separated." That's what crypto represents. That's what DeFi represents. In the past, you'd win a war, you'd kill the people, you'd take their gold, and you'd rewrite the rules in your favor because the political financial relationship is power over people. What happens when the people take back their money? And what is money? Money is just a proxy for human labor. That's all it is. Richard said it many, many times. The only things that exist are goods and services. Well, what are goods and services except the creative ability of the human being? Our creative ability is what separates us from the animals. Our ability to sow the seed, to wait, partner with the creation, and one seed turns into 1,800. It's called a yield. At the end of the day, this is all an agricultural story because everything that we call money is just a derivative. It is just a proxy for human labor. That's all it is. And why people are so, critical, the people outside of crypto are so critical. They're like, what's it backed by? What's it actually represent? And they're coming to realize it actually represents belief. It represents agreement. But it's always done it that way. If you had a mining town, they found a gold mine out west. Hey, go west, young man. And a town popped up. Why did a town popped up? Because that's where the value was. And what happened at the value? People saw the needs of people and they started different things. Hey, we got a need for picks and shovels. But we also have a need for a brothel. And we also have a need for people to have a sip of whiskey. And the casino and all the things that popped up around, place to sleep, a place to bathe, whatever it may be. Community is absolutely critical. And so that's why I'm so encouraging you. The best possible place to be in March is going to be with Hexicans, Pulsicans, in this community. Because here's the thing, folks. I'm going to say it every time, and I'm going to try to convince everyone. Our message should not be faster, cheaper, better. Pulse chain. That's not the message. The message is we together are building the alternative financial system. It's way more purpose-driven. People are going to be attracted because of the money and the charts and everything going up and to the right. No. What we're doing here is critical. It's important in human history. Because if somebody is not going to defend true DeFi, and there's not a soul out there outside of Richard Hart who actually has this vision, No one's communicating in this way. Charles Hoskinson with Cardano, he gets it, but he doesn't have the skills that Richard's got, and he doesn't have the community of like a cult-like culture. He just doesn't have this kind of stuff. He doesn't, people aren't like crazy. Let's start a YouTube channel about Cardano. So Richard Hart is the heir apparent for this alternative financial system. But let's understand what we do. We have to build and do it together. And we're seeing some of the smartest people I know building out there. But folks, the money's going to come in. And it's going to come in really because of what we're seeing with this shift in politics. Is we're going to see basically Bitcoin become completely mainstream. Well, that's going to carry everything else with it. But everyone shifts from those gains once they're getting closer to $100,000 Bitcoin or into these, key points of resistance. They're going to shift over into Ethereum, and it's going to go nuts. And what's that going to do? It's going to make everything that's bonded to it go nuts as well. And we're going to have another altcoin summer. And I think that the last 5 months of this thing that goes in through October to November of 2025 is going to be insanity. You're going to have 5 months where you're probably going to go up, 10 to 50x in 5 months. I saw it happen with X. It's going to happen again. But the question is, with what? Well, we're poised. We are super poised. And all of these things coming together, you can't affect, right? I mean, you can vote, but it could have gone either way, and it went your way. And folks, it is exciting. It is super, super, super exciting. So, folks, I just want to say this is truly going to be a golden age. But what makes it a golden age? People making decisions in consideration for each other. This is the dream I saw. Like, wow, we have this opportunity to have this compassion cartel. These people who literally sacrifice for Pulse and Pulse X. But I didn't realize how big of an impact the potential would have. Because what happens when you have money? Well, it's just like you having a gun. It's a tool. It's neutral. Money is not evil. It's the love of money. It's the worship of money that's evil, right? You can't serve two masters. Is a gun inherently going to kill kids at a school? No, it's a person with a certain nature and character that picks up that gun. But you might use it to defend your family or hunt for food or target shoot. This is another tool. The question is, how are you going to use this resource, this abundance that you find yourself in? There's some amazing people I've met in this community over the last 3 years who are like, hey, I think one of them, Danny the singer, is a great example of this. Somebody who has a heart for those who are in need. And he has literally, God has placed on his heart certain groups of people to serve and to help. Folks, you want purpose in life? Literally ask the God of all creation, hey, what do you got me here for? What's my purpose? And I'm going to tell you, you marry money and resources with purpose and watch out. But that's all that Richard Hart's done, right? He's like, what's my purpose? Now for him, it's the glory, his glory, right? Not somebody else's glory. But I'm okay with that. Why? Because it's a journey we're all on, right? We're coming to understand what's the purpose, why you create me, because I'm going to die at some point. So why do you got me here? What's the purpose of this? And how am I animating these tools that are around me, like the blockchain and money and whatever, in your nature and character? Like, how do I do that in a way that's actually considerate of other people? Because that's how we all win. Because in this decentralized world, that's how you always win. Because it's related to Metcalfe's law, right? This price and this growth is affected by this network effect. Like people coming into the network is actually what drives it. Now, specifically within a DEX, it's more buyers than sellers. And so to have programmable money like Hex, where you can, have a T-share because you stake this stuff and you get paid to do it, folks, it is an absolute renaissance age. And you have permission to go out and build and create and do stuff. And I hope that you're encouraged. Like if you are like, hey, I'd like to do this thing and I'd like to maybe start a YouTube channel, or I'd like to start a TikTok deal, or I want to do something on Instagram or whatever. I want to do shorts, or do it. Do it. That's what you should do. This isn't just, reserved. That's the cool thing about it. Like legacy media is dead. I got a camera. It's a Canon 80D. I got a 50 millimeter lens on it, and I got a 4K television behind me. I got a light over here and a light over there. That's it. And a decent microphone. Do you have something to say? Folks, you've got the ability to go into ChatGPT to create all kinds of things. You've got AI stuff. You've got everything you can. All you have to do, put this stuff up, have a decent internet connection, start yourself a channel, and then think. Just think ahead of time. Hey, what should I share with people? What's my unique perspective that I could offer to the world? Do it. It's not a competition, it's a community. And it all works together. And that's what's so incredible about this. And that's why, frankly, people will invest in it because it has the staying power of people that can last through these bear markets. It's incredible. And then they go out and they support, like Richard Hart didn't go to the oral arguments, and all these Hexicans showed up. Look at that kind of like commitment. But it's more than just about the money. They didn't show up just because, well, maybe I'll make money in the future. No, they showed up because they're like, hey, it's RG3 and it's Hex Monkey and it's the Wild SJ and it's these people. And it actually, you know what's funny is if you ask them, what was the benefit of doing this? Well, I got to meet these people and I'm connected to them. And it's about people and it's about relationships. That's why you need to be in Las Vegas. 6th through 9th of that's 369, by the way. March 6th through 9th. Be in Las Vegas. I highly recommend it. Let's get back in the chat. I'll answer any question that you have and then we'll sign off. 213 people here from 3 platforms. I really appreciate it. If you're somebody who is on Twitter, please give the follow. If you're on YouTube, I appreciate the subscription and the like. It just helps us grow this. I'm continuing to promote the thing that's beneficial and valuable to you. And it's incredible, folks. I feel it. You feel it. We're coming into a golden age. And I'm so glad that we have leadership who actually is sensible and curious. Trump and the whole team, I'm more excited about the team than I am about Trump, to be honest with you, but it's good leadership because he's going to bust people's chops. But on the flip side, Richard Hart is going to be free. He's going to be free to communicate. And I have a feeling when he comes back, it's going to be interesting. Just like Rack and Rochelle. Everybody like piled onto that guy. What benefit did that provide of you? You don't know exactly what happened there. I'm going to interview him. I'm going to find out. But this whole redemptive story, this redemptive arc is all of our stories. So he who is without sin casts the first stone. Let's go. Let's actually care about people. Let's lift them up. Let's not tear them down. But that's all I saw the last basically, year. Let's go. Super fired up. I don't know if you can tell. Okay, we got some cool people here. I'm seeing this here. Fantastic. Pete Crypto, what's going on? Guess they weren't really your friends. Act emaciated. Good point, dude. Liberty or death. What's up? Tuned in. Love the title as Trump has stated he is going to issue a new golden age in America, golden age in crypto. Yep. And that's where it comes from. But it's so interesting to me, the gold watches and everything of Richard. The Richard Trump comparison is so like obviously similar, right? An abrasive guy, but also a guy who cares. Pretty cool. DGen Dougie Peach. What's up, my friend? DGen Hexican, Trump pump. Yeah, and this is going to pump like crazy, folks. Why? Because you're getting permission and endorsement, and there's so much resources that are coming in. I mean, did you see BTC went up 10% basically the night of the election as it priced in the Trump win? I mean, you have seen nothing like this, right? Nothing like this because the power in crypto, it's going to be amazing. Rugburn222, blessed fam. What's going on? Drix, good to see you back, man. Here's a great example. Drix is a musician and all around good guy. And he's making songs and creating content. Everybody's got a different gift and he's got a gift. What's your gift? How are you going to bring it to the table? How are you going to bring it? It's fun to do it, by the way, too. It's fun to meet up with people. It's fun to do a channel like this. It's fun to encourage people because you get together and you're high-fiving them and you're like, hey, let's go. And then you find out that there are issues that people have and you come around them. It's called community. Crypto Incognito. Much love, y'all. Keep it real. Absolutely. El Sizzle, who believes the hardest. Yeah. Well, and that's what it is. But I think it makes it easier. You don't have to believe some sort of lie. If you have the messaging right, if you're truly aligned, we're building the alternative financial system. Thank me later, right? That's the whole thing. Richard Hart would say, thank me. You're going to thank me for this. I'm protecting you from yourself. Is it perfect all the time? Are there not cycles? Yeah, there are. But what is the actual end goal here? He even talks about creating his own country. Why? Because he saw what happened. Well, Texas is here. I mean, I have a feeling there's going to be a lot of deregulation and you're going to be able to do a lot of things that you might want to do, creating community. Think about this for a second. I think about this a lot. Now that Starlink is here, And we're about to be on the edge, in my opinion, of a new physics that's going to really tap into, because it's what all of these UFO stuff are using. It's some sort of 0 point energy, and the government knows about it. And that's what's been held back for 75 years. This next 10 years, we're going to find out what that is. Now, imagine this: you've got unlimited energy, access to energy, and you've got, you know, Starlink, right? You got ability to communicate globally. That means you could live anywhere, because if you had energy, you could get water, right? You could do all kinds of different things. So, folks, I'm telling you right now, this is way bigger than you think it is. I mean, literally, the places in the middle of the desert could then ultimately be a place of abundant life and value. You know, think about West Texas. If you've ever been out to West Texas, like tumbleweed, right? Like flat nothing, tons and tons of land out there. Well, if you have the ability to have high speed internet and then you've got unlimited energy, you can drill wells, you can pull it from the atmosphere and have water, you can irrigate, you can do all kinds of things. And so people are going to come up with new ideas of ways of having community. And I think we're going to see this if we've got, you know, a government that's not down your throat and, you know, coming into your house like Ruby Ridge or Waco. You're gonna have an opportunity to create the kind of world and environment that you want to have with people that you love and care about. Community is everything, folks, because the currency of the future is not hex or pulse or Bitcoin. The future, the currency is trust. Trust. That's the currency. It's not money. It's the currency of the future is trust. And where does trust come from? Relationships. Swiss verse, really? Wow. What's up, Hans? Good to see you. Amen. Great stream. Thanks so much. Appreciate it. Spencer, do you think people who sacrificed on day one will get crazy massive gains? Or would you have had to DCA down to the bottom? I mean, that's a really good question, Spencer. And so I'm not going to give you financial advice, but I'm going to give you my opinion. I think this is very, very, very low compared to where things will be. I mean, think about this for a second. You know, people talk about the sacrifice money, right? It's just sitting there. Well, just imagine this. The sacrifice money, let's say it's sitting around, because it went into stable coins and then it went into Ethereum. And it's also getting yield, I think, in Spark protocol by MakerDAO. And so it's producing that. But then what we're going to see is the next big event, in my opinion, in crypto is going to be the Ethereum breaking the all-time high. So 4,400, 4,500. When it breaks that and it moves, you know, there's 175,000 ETH in that wallet. And plus there's more. And Richard obviously has a lot more money, but it's really the people that are whales, they don't like talk to each other. It's not like they're all on the phone together in a Telegram group, but they know what time it is. And nobody that's got money wants to throw money into a hole. It's all about timing things. And so when Richard moves, he's going to move based on the right timing. Well, SEC case and all this stuff. Now we got this shift. We're going to see these moves made. And so as that money, we follow that money in. That's what actually creates this massive bubble, which is this big top. And so you have to follow that carefully. So do I think that there are people who are going to do really well? Yeah, I do. I think that, I mean, it can't go much lower. And of course, it went lower than the quote unquote day one sack. But I don't think that's going to be the conversation. And here's why I say that. I got into Hex 2 days before big payday, and I didn't put in much. But what I watched was a drop after a big payday. And then it just kind of sat sideways. And I would tune into, I think it was on, what was that? It wasn't Twitch. Yeah, no, it wasn't Twitch. Somebody remind me, the lemons of Hexo, right? Whatever that was. D Live. Yeah, D Live. And I'd tune into him every evening, you know, at the end of the day and watch Hexo. And, you know, the Hex, you know, the doctor is in. And those were those were the days. And it was so fun to watch that and to see. I didn't know anything about it. I saw this on a TV ad. I put some money in because there was a TV ad that said, "Do you want to get rich?" I'm like, well, I know about crypto. Let's get into this one. And of course, to see what has happened and come out of this and then see the people that I could relate to, right? Blue collar people for the most part. And I'm like, that's how I grew up. It's like, these are my people. I love this group of people. And they wanted to, you know, build something. And it wasn't a while, but it wasn't until the entire market shifted. That's why they called it altcoin summer. This isn't because just Richard's smarter and because Hexo and RG3 are just like the most winsome guys. It's helpful, but it also carried itself. There was a portion of this was the whole market moved. And Hex is not the only one that did quote unquote a 10,000x, but he caught it at the right time. right? Launched at the right time, caught it there. But there was a period of time between big payday and the run to like over a penny. It was a while. Take a look at the chart. So we're going to see a period of time here where things are going to crawl, and you're going to be like, oh man, oh man, oh man. No, you always have an opportunity. This is the bottom, not the top. People have told me, and this is what I've heard, is that you buy low and sell high. I don't know if you've ever heard that before, but I hear that's relatively good advice. But the question is, you have to do your own research and you have to kind of bet on a horse. There's a lot of horses out there, and there's a lot of people in our community that are trying to get you over into their horse. I get a lot of criticism. We created the Texan token and pivotal in the support of the Ovir token. Folks, these have their communities. The reason I don't do this, the reason I'm so Richard Hart, is because I know that there is a time for everything. And this is the time for this vertically aligned ecosystem. We're a part of that. But all these people that are out there creating this bonded liquidity webs, you know what they're betting on? Pulse, Hex, Inc., PulseX going up. Because that's the whole thing. Without the bonded liquidity, they're not sitting on hundreds of millions of dollars themselves. They're building a network that creates value when the things they're bonded with go through the roof. So everyone's anticipating that. But the other thing that Axie said on my channel 2 days ago, Axie's Alive said, he said, folks, this is an opportunity like no other, because you got to remember, Pulse Chain is Ethereum. And we're downstream of all the innovations in Ethereum. So everything that Ethereum gets, we get. So like, relax. People are going to come to understand that. And then they're going to realize that they've got coins. When they copied over the system state, you have copies of coins. If you had them on Ethereum and they were there pre-fork, you have them now on the Pulse Chain. They just don't know about it. So this world's largest airdrop isn't even like, people aren't even aware of it yet. But when Richard starts moving, and then the other whales start moving, and other people that have resources start moving, it will gain momentum, just like we're seeing right now. A big shift happens, it's go time, and things start moving. But then it gets into a frenzy, because what really drives the bull run is retail. It's not the whales. The whales get the thing started, and it moves in this trajectory. But then when retail goes, they buy those green candles, and that's when they buy the top. And that's the concern. And so if I give you any warning or advice, is this: the reason that Richard Hart was so many times said to you, I called the top, I called the top, I called the top. And frankly, it was kind of annoying. Do you know why it's so important you call the top? Because it says to all the other people, it's over. And what happens? 3 years of down and to the right. That's what happens every single time. And he knew that. That's why it's so important when Richard Hart calls the top, or anyone calls the top, because everyone's out. And then you hope, and I hoped, oh, maybe like it will pump again and we'll go up. No, it will not break the cycle. The cycle is a 4-year cycle, period. But the key indicator that we're coming out of that is when it breaks the all-time high from the last time. So Bitcoin just broke the all-time high. Ethereum's going to break the all-time high. And we're going to see all kinds of money. But then we have all this governmental stuff. We have all this momentum. We have all of this deregulation. We have sensible, common sense people that actually care about. Why? Because they've got a vested interest in this as well. But this is a real decentralization of abundant resources to you if you're willing to hear the call. I mean, I know people that were regular working class people, and they got into crypto early. Sometimes you can say, well, they're lucky. Sometimes you say they're smart. But it changed their lives. These are life-changing types of things. But if you don't, paper gains and having value in paper means nothing if you don't exit and you don't have a plan. But everyone's got to learn. Everyone's got to learn, in some cases, the hard way. Good question, Spencer. Done both. What's up? Is this guy relative to Hart? Nope. I'm older than Richard Hart is. But it's kind of funny that you say that. Mr. Solano, a brother, lol. I hope the information we're here for, growth and prosperity. Amen. 100% Danny is lovely. So many awesome humans. Amen. Keithan? What's your take on PDI? It's a great question. I will tell you. The evidence to me suggests that Richard was very integral at the beginning of the fork of the Pulse chain to take control of the maker contract. He was the biggest holder of DAI, so the biggest holder of PDI. And, the things that have changed in that maker contract are an indication that stablecoins are really important for the Pulse chain. this kind of pegging of PDI with PUSDC. I don't have all the information, but I would say pay attention to it. Is it going to be like this universal stable coin, dollar peg stable coin of the Pulse chain? No, I think it's a really, really interesting thing to watch because there's a lot of narrative around it. So whether it pegs or not, I don't know. I do know that there's a lot of case, but what is value? It's narrative. Buy the rumor, sell the news. So PDI is a really, really good story. And if you're somebody that's a gambler, yeah, you may want to look into it. It does look bullish. I mean, just look at the numbers. Crypto Incognito, King Pooey, what's up, dude? What's up? Old man wisdom is real. It starts after 40. Well, maybe JD Vance will get some of that too. What are you going to ask Rackham? Well, what would you want me to ask Rackham? Here are some things I know about Rackham, and I think would be really helpful because I'm a positive person, not trying to, score points and, try to make people gotcha. Here's the thing I know. Rackham's story is the story of redemption. It's the story of grace. It's the story of rags to riches. It's the story of going from nothing, from bottom to top to bottom again. It's a guy who's a perspective that's beyond money. And I want to hear that story in every detail. And you need to hear that because he's somebody that's participating in this community. I think a lot of people think they know about Rackham. They don't know jack. And they're going to hear about it. And I hope that he's willing to be transparent there. But he's come back. He's getting remarried. He's awesome. And it's awesome to have people. But here's the thing. People get upset. People make decisions. They get their feelings hurt. And then they carry grudges. We got to let go of that stuff and move forward together, period. And Rackham is got a ton of relationships. And it's no one person's job. That's why Richard says, hey, I don't own this thing. We're shepherding it. We're stewarding it. And so I want to hear the story. I want to hear the origin story. I've heard it in different ways. I'd love to hear it from him. And I'd love, to hear his advice and what his outlook is on this Pulse chain ecosystem. I mean, he and his partners are probably more invested than any of us are. What do they see with this? What do they see? I mean, where do they think things are going? That's why it's so important because we have this assumption that Richard's the OA, but we don't know. And we know that stuff is locked up. He's basically given us a gift to run with. So if you want to lead. But I'm going to tell you, leading from a place of anger or bitterness or all of that stuff you're not going to go very far with that. You have to be positive. All that noise makes the Jeets feel good about themselves. Glad you'll interview him. A real story is intense. Yes. And it's important. The humanity, that's actually what the community thing's all about. Christy, Matt, when is the interview? I'm hoping on Tuesday. So I don't have confirmation, but he has agreed to do it. The question is when, so what time? But I'll let you know on Twitter as soon as I get a confirmation from the man himself. It's now. What's going on? It's so good to see you. Folks, there's people that have been around since the beginning. It's now has been around since the beginning. Hex Force One, what's going on? Let's see what else here. If you've got a question, let me know. Hex Monkey, beautiful time to be alive. Hex Monkey has been a guy who's been around since the beginning. He traveled out to the oral arguments in New York as well. It's great to see all these OGs, high-fiving each other. Him and Danny were in a photo they sent me. I'm like, this is awesome. All right, let's see what we got. Oh, did we ever find out who put the ad on TV? I wasn't around back then. What's funny is if you look at that, it's Richard Hart's voice. So he did the voiceover for it. I didn't know him at the time, but now that you listen to it and it's like, oh yeah, do you want to get rich? And it's Richard. So I'm guessing it's one of the kind of original people. If I had to guess, it might be like a Brent Morrissey type of character. He's the guy who friends with Richard, and he did the stuff with the football teams, and I think maybe he was involved with some of the stuff with the Hex Lambo stuff. He's a go-to guy to do kind of that marketing, but I don't know that for a fact. But that would be a good question. Somebody knows. Crypto Smart with Richard Hart. Yeah, Hexo made crypto fun. Yeah, so let's make it fun again. Well, it's almost inevitable. I'm having fun. Those that have held tightly this long will be rewarded. Absolutely. And the people that get in now too will be. if you look back at the chart and everything, obviously it's up since the very, 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 very beginning. But folks, what are you sitting at? What are we sitting at? A penny ish, 1.4, something like that. Let me look on Gold Pulse. And it's been moving, obviously. But where are we at? So in the last 24 hours, Hex is up 15%. It's at 1.6 cents. Is that right? Yeah, 1.6 cents. So actually, let's do this. I never do this, but I'm going to do it today just because it's fun. I'm going to share my screen on a chart. Hey, we're turning over a new leaf here on Crypto Heartbeat. We're sharing a chart. All right, so let's go to the daily and look at this. Look at this, folks. I mean, talk about look at the date on this, right? September 8th, when things started moving, right? I mean, this is pricing in things. We obviously, we're up 15% in the last 24 hours. But now if you back out of this, and this is just the pulse chain, this is just pulse, right? This isn't the whole thing. I mean, what does this look like to you, right? Launching in the bear market. I mean, the future looks bright on all fronts, because what happens, and for those of you who don't know the cycles, this is what happens. Bitcoin hits and breaks the all-time high, and then it runs, right? It might hit a kind of a psychological level of maybe 100,000, and we have these kind of pauses in people putting in because they've gotten those gains, and they push over into altcoins, and then they go crazy. And so if I had to predict, I would say we're going to see an altcoin summer. I think that the news is all going to be Bitcoin here in January when Trump is doing that. It's going to be all Bitcoin all day long, right? Because it's what kind of the new people to crypto, that's all they know, right? They just know Bitcoin and Ethereum. And because there's so much focus on Bitcoin with guys like Michael Saylor and all the maxis and it always goes first anyway. So we're going to see that probably in the first quarter is massive moves, but then we're going to hit a point where things shift over. And so that will have a general driving effect through all the altcoins, in my opinion. And so this is the time we're going to see all kinds of things launch, things build, things move. And then there's going to be an altcoin summer. And that altcoin summer is probably going to last around 5 or 6 months, and it's going to go to the moon. So you're going to have some time. But, the question is, people say, do you have your bags packed? Well, last cycle, I did not have my bags packed. I will have my bags packed, continue to, and so will you, if you're smart. But you have to do your own research and choose your own horse to ride. Yeah, if anyone knows this, Axis does. Absolutely. He's a smart guy. Mr. Rock Jockey, what's going on? I see you all the time on the flip side of the replay gang. So good to see you. Yeah, on a double and a double and a double and a double. What's up? Good morning. Red Squirrel's here. Good to see you. Wow, we got a lot of folks. What's up, Daniel? Look at us grow. Isn't that funny? I totally can relate. SJ. Hey, I'm sharing a chart. Whoa. Actually, hey, I'm not good at astrology for men. I'll leave that to the smarter people. I'm here for the why, because the why is the most important thing, right? What and how? No, why are we doing it? That's what actually drives things. The narrative is driven by why. And that's the other thing I think that people kind of lament sometimes is they've got all this complexity. Well, the more complex that you make crypto, the smaller and smaller your audience is, right? So you've got these people that kind of congratulate each other in crypto. And, it's complex and complex and complex and complex and complex. And we do this, and it's this web of this. And then you sell this one to buy this one, and it's tied in with this one, and you strike this one, and it creates an NFT, and then you do this. And you whittle and whittle and whittle and whittle and whittle it down to a small group of people. Now, those people are like super fans of yours because they love it. And they're like, oh, you're the smartest person on planet Earth. But one of the things Richard Hart knows that the people that are technologists don't know is that you have to have a message that people can understand. And crypto nerds, folks, this is about money. It's about real value. If you really want to capture adoption, it's not through high technology in the sense of complexity. A lot of people out there that are building right now think that the more complexity and the more like, I got this genius strategy that does these things. Now, there's good things, bonded liquidity webs, I get it. But the majority of people that are going to come in that are really going to pump your bags are not going to understand or appreciate what you've done. So if you don't have a way to basically say that, now I think they're banking on the fact that, hey, number goes up. I don't really care how it goes up if it goes up. So there is some, long-term benefit in that. But there's a lot of people that are really, really, really trying to split the atom or whatever. which, hey, that's great. Smart people in this community is really valuable. Yeah, Hex chart is a sign of crypto's bullishness is an indicator. Yep. All right, folks, thanks so much for joining. Pimp barbecue sauce. I love that. What's cooking in the kitchen, man? BTC is cooking right now. Awesome. Folks, thanks for joining the Pulse today. My name is Matt. This is Crypto Heartbeat. We will catch you very soon. We'll see you tomorrow at 11 o'clock. We'll be doing Right Side Up in honor of my spiritual mentor, Steve Staggs. We talk about God and all things spiritual at 11 a.m. Central Time every week. This is episode number 75 tomorrow, which is amazing. And then we will be back next week with Rackham Rochelle interview, a Crypto Heartbeat interview with Rackham Rochelle. Folks, take care of yourself. Have a great weekend and do not mess with Texas. Take care, everybody.